special session prepared for our patrons. I am Nor Wang, Head of Development here. And tonight, thank you all for coming because tonight is very special. You are among the first few who will get a window into the new exciting events and exhibitions happening here in 2026, inspired by the theme of the Silk Roads as well as world-class masterpieces of Asian art. Tonight we will conduct the event in two parts. We'll have a presentation followed by a highlights tour of our galleries. And to introduce us to all the amazing things that will happen, Asian art treasures from distant lands. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Tan On, the director of the museum, who will take us on this magic carpet ride.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your Wednesday evening with us at the museum. As Nor mentioned, this is really the first time that we are sharing with anyone outside from the team about what we are about to offer for 2026. I think the story then goes back to time with what we do best at the Asian Civilization Museum as one of the national museums. As a National Museum of Asian Art, we talk about trade, we talk about the transmissions of different faith and beliefs, and this is what we do at our best with our collection. And extending to that, we want to bring an older story of trade and transmission of faith through the Silk Roads. And these will be some of the exhibitions that we are kind of dancing along with. Like I said, you are the first to hear it, and many of these exhibitions that we will be sharing tonight, they are also not cast in stones, and this is still a very much a work in progress that we are working with our partners, which we hope that there is something for everyone to also take back and something that we can work on together as well. Because we understand that when we want to work with partners and supporters and sponsors, sometimes it's best to start early and not present a very final product and basically you're just asking for money or for support. But I think there is room to develop ideas together to also find a win-win solution for the museum and then also for individually or for your organization as well. So this is what we hope to achieve. And please also take this tonight as a very informal sharing of what we have next year, but at the same time also to catch up with many of you. Some I've also not seen for almost half a year already. So this is really also a networking and catching up session. So without much further ado, I think this is what we're going to present, Sacred Journey Across Asia. And I think, again, based on what we have as an exciting sort of lineup of very strategic partnerships, museum alliance, and collaborations, mainly with France and with China. Starting with China, we are presenting an exhibition on Dunhuang, working very closely with the Dunhuang Academy. And I won't go too much in depth into it. I will leave it to my curators, colleagues who will be presenting on this project and will share more about it with you. And then there will be two French partners as well, namely the Musée du Louvre and Musée Guimet as well. So on Dunhuang, again, if you have been following our programs, you probably would kind of ask, hey, it's been a while since ACM did a British art exhibition. I can't remember when it was the last one. I think it was even before COVID with Encore as well. But that's also kind of Hindu Buddhist in a way. It's not purely Buddhist as well. So we wanted to revisit this theme, which is also very important to us, to a lot of our Singaporean audiences. And we thought, why not Dunhuang? Partly it's also because kind of reflecting on the nature that Singapore is a cosmopolitan port city. Of course not as old as Dunhuang as well, but we are also part of this, what most people today tend to call this maritime Silk Road trek. So here we want to divert our attention to look at something far more ancient, far more older, but at the same time it's also an overland Silk Road, a very important point where a lot of the cross-cultural exchanges happen. And Dunhuang is also very cosmopolitan, and it's also very diverse in its offerings of different religions as well. But the main theme of it is still, of course, Buddhist art, and with different influences as well, which again you will hear from the team in a bit. So Dunhuang is coming up in August 2026, 2027, ACM and Dunhuang Academy with our Chinese partners. Musée Guimet. Also next year, coming in 2026, we will be working with Musée Guimet on a museum-to-museum collaboration. And this time around, it's an exchange of long-term loans. Basically, from the Musée Guimet, they will be sending us a group of Japanese Buddhist art collection, which we will be presenting in our Ancient Religions Gallery. If you have visited the Ancient Religions Gallery, the second half of the gallery, you will find that how we have approached the subject is to look at Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism. And within the Buddhist context story, you will realize that there are two gaps in our narrative. We don't mention very much of the transmission of Buddhism into Korea. We don't mention very much of the transmission into Japan. But that's the natural gap of the collection. In a way, we don't have these objects in a way. But it doesn't kind of forbid us to work with our partners for this kind of long-term collaborations. And to inject some of the key masterpieces from the Musée Guimet into the ACM's Ancient Religions Gallery to have that story to be told. And in return, ACM will be actually forming a group of our Asian Christian art collection, which will be traveling to Guimet to be presented over there. So we see often these collections, which is, Asian Christian art, as many of you would know, is one of our unique collection within the ACM. So these will be our, like it or not, quote unquote, cultural ambassadors that will be championing ACM's collection in the Musée Guimet, and vice versa. Some of these highlights of Japanese Buddhist art from the Guimet will be coming in the ACM's collection. And then Musée du Louvre. We'll be presenting a project, and it's a project on Islamic art of a tale across 3 different cities. So by going through the galleries, you are also walking through 3 different very important cities that marks 3 different Islamic dynasty as well, from Delhi to Isfahan to Istanbul. But basically with that, what you are looking at is some of the very important masterpieces of works of art from the Mughal courts, from the Safavid Empire, and from the Ottomans as well. So this is something that we are also exploring to work with the Musée du Louvre. As some of you would know, that they are going through part of a multi-year refresh at the Louvre, and especially for the Islam art wing, it's closed right now. The collection is actually traveling, so this is very much an opportunity that we would like to work with our colleagues at the Louvre to bring some of the important collection. But this is not really a full exhibition that we're just taking from the Louvre to Singapore. Basically, it's a collaborative model that we'll be working with them, and this will be inbuilt, the exhibition will be inbuilt into our Islamic art gallery. And it's basically using our own collection with the Louvre collection coming together as one. So it's a very unique opportunity and not really a package kind of an exhibition that we just wholesale to from it. But, I'm just making things up here. That's not my area. I'm going to introduce to you, my Deputy Director and Principal Curator of Islamic Art as well, Nora, to really share about what this project is.
Hi everyone. Clement has already covered quite a lot of ground. We really think that this is a very special opportunity and probably a once in a lifetime opportunity for the Louvre collection to be coming out of the museum and traveling to Asia. And one of our strengths at ACM is actually Southeast Asian Islamic art. So what we're trying to do with this story, by looking at Delhi and Isfahan and Istanbul, is to also consider how these then have longer term impact and influence on the development of Southeast Asian Islamic art here. So this is actually an exhibition that will not just take over the Islamic Art Gallery, but will also take over the gallery above. So we're looking at a double-story exhibition, and it will hopefully give our visitors a deeper insight into the Islamic art traditions in this region that we can be proud of, vis-a-vis the greater grand traditions of Islamic art that we already know of from the Mughal, Ottoman, and Persian empires. Yeah.
So I hope you like the kind of partnerships that we're going into. I think since when I took on the role last July, we've been working with my team to see how we can offer different kind of initiatives, different kind of collaborations with different museum counterparts. And it's not always just the special exhibition. As you know, we only have one special exhibition space, but how do we really utilize and make some of what we call long-term galleries or permanent exhibitions, some of these spaces come to life as well. Because they are really, our assets, most of our national collection are also based in there. So how do we activate and make these spaces a little bit more dynamic than how it used to be? So here you have with the collaborations with Ime and the Louvre, these are some of the activations that things will be slightly different as we move forward. And then Dunhuang is, is more of a, like our staple special exhibition offerings that we'll be gathering. And maybe just before I pass on the mic to the curators, just also to introduce the team who are also here with me tonight. Of course, Nora, who just spoke, Noor. There is Angie over there, who is also our head of Ops. And then Dr. Kevin Lam is our senior curator of Chinese art, who will be speaking. Jia Yi is our head of audience and comms. Jerry, of course, you must have known Jerry very well, also those who know the team. Jane at the back, reliable Jane, who makes sure everything is prim and proper tonight as well. Chai is not around. Okay, Chai somewhere. And Louise over here as well is our curator for Chinese art. Did I miss out on anyone? I thought I saw the name. Left with me, okay. Anyway, without much further ado, I'll turn it to Louise and Kevin, or just Louise.
Good evening, everyone. As Clement mentioned earlier, we are organizing a very exciting exhibition on Dunhuang in the Mulga Barlos next year. And we're going to be partnering with the Dunhuang Academy, which is the research institute that focuses on the study and preservation of the site in China. And we'll be including a lot of historical artifacts as well as three-dimensional life-size cave replicas. And this is the first time that these objects will be featured in Singapore and the wider Southeast Asian region. This partnership also celebrates the 35th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Singapore and China. And we're trying to foreground a very thematic approach to this exhibition. So we're going to be pulling out overarching themes that unite these objects. I think a lot of Dunhuang exhibitions that have been done before tend to group the artifacts according to object type. But here we're trying to give the visitor a more holistic experience. So we're really trying to put together cave replicas with artifacts, with documents and manuscripts and so on. And of course we'll be highlighting the amazing Buddhist art that comes from this site. We'll also be looking at the secular aspects of Dunhuang, focusing on its multicultural, multi-religious and multilingual environment. So some of the artifacts include rare objects that are over 1,200 years old. We have manuscripts and documents that are hand-copied and have been fairly recently discovered. We also have a selection of what we call the wall paintings by painters from the 20th century who were pioneers in the study and preservation and research of these paintings and the site itself. Some of them are considered masters in their own right in Chinese painting. And then we'll also have state-of-the-art physical and digital cave experiences. So for those who are not familiar, I'll give a very brief introduction on what the Mongao Grottos are. They are a UNESCO World Heritage Site located near the historic city of Dunhuang in northwest China. They are a vast network of caves that flourished between the 4th and the 14th century, so a period of over 1,000 years. And they were carved out from the cliff face, and many of these are richly painted and decorated, and a lot of them were created for not only as sites of worship and devotion, but also to accumulate merit for their afterlife. So they are actually one of the world's richest repositories of Buddhist art. And if we look at the map here, we can see that Dunhuang is located very near Central Asia on the crossroads of the Silk Road. And because of its geographic location, it was influenced by many different cultures, from China to India, Central Asia, and Persia, and so on. And actually, the development of the Mongao Grottos goes hand in hand with the development of the Silk Road and its rise as a prominent city on this site. Because a lot of merchants and travelers would commission caves or create objects to give thanks for a safe return or to pray for a safe journey on these Silk Roads. So we're going to be interspersing life-size, faithful imitations of cave replicas throughout the exhibition. And these caves are, not only splendid works of Buddhist art and devotion, but they're also, to borrow a concept from aesthetics, like a total work of art, right? You see how architecture, painting, and sculpture come together to create these very moving and holistic experiences. So visitors will be able to enter these spaces and completely immerse themselves in the caves. A lot of the caves have wonderful details and many different stories that can be told, from the wall murals to the sculptural and decorative elements. So this is one of the earlier caves that's very iconic from Dunhuang. This is cave 285 from the Western Wei period, so about the 5th century, 5th or 6th century. And what's special about this cave is not only is it an early example of Mongao cave art, it also has these very special depictions of local Chinese deities mixed to Buddhist deities. So it shows how this foreign religion of Buddhism is filtered through the Chinese imagination and becomes slowly Sinicized and localized. Next we have K45, which is from the Hai Tang period, and it contains one of the most iconic sculptural programs in the cave site. It also has this mural that depicts Guan Yin saving the common people, and we have these wonderful details of daily life. For example, we have Guan Yin saving a group of merchants from bandits on the Silk Road. And this photograph is actually a photograph of the cave replica, so you can see how detailed these imitations are. We also have cave 158, which is one of the most spectacular caves from the Mongao cave complex, just because of its size. It measures 17 by 7 meters in real life, and it has this wonderful, almost in full relief sculpture of the reclining Buddha entering Nirvana. And it also reflects the multicultural environment of Mongao and Dunhuang at this time. So at the adjacent panel, we see a group of rulers mourning the death of the Buddha, and they're all from different regions. And then finally, we have a cave from the Yuan period. This is a very representative cave of something that's created during the Yuan dynasty. It reflects the influence of Tantric Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, because during this period, China was ruled by the Mongols, who were practicing Tantric Buddhism. And then the Zhonghao Academy also has a lot of very high quality digital cave experiences, and we hope to bring some of these to Singapore or weave them into our exhibition content. So we've split the show into 4 major themes. We're looking at Dunhuang as a city, we're looking at Buddhist and devotional works of art, we're looking at its people, and finally its legacy. So beginning with the city, we're looking at Dunhuang's development as a city. It started out as a frontier garrison outpost on the western regions of China in the Han Tang Dynasty. We look at the story of the Han envoy Zhang Qian and how he was sent to kind of inspect the Western regions and open it up for trade. Here we look at Dunhuang's rise as a site on the Silk Road. For example, here we have a brick featuring a foreign man who's leading a camel, and he's probably a trader. And we also have a travel path that was found at Dunhuang. And then we'll also look at the birth of the caves in the 4th dynasty, so the Northern Liang period. And here we'll showcase some of the earlier examples of Buddhist wall painting. Next, devotion is our next, probably the biggest section in the exhibition. And we're here examining the religious artifacts and manuscripts that come out of these sites. So we'll have hand-copied sutras and manuscripts, and to really bring the content alive, we're going to pair it with illustrations and paintings that depict episodes from these sutras to make the content come alive for visitors. And then we'll look at the crucial role of the bodhisattvas and the influence of Mahayana Buddhism. And if you look at Dunhuang art, you'll see that music and dance is a very important theme that runs throughout. So this is something that we also hope to explore. And because of Dunhuang's location, it was at the crossroads of many different cultures. So we'll also examine how these different cultures manifest in the art of Dunhuang. So for example, here we have a gilt bronze figure that reflects the bronze casting traditions from Tibet and Nepal. We have a lot of different manuscripts written in different languages, from Chinese to Tibetan to the Xia language to Syriac. And then we also have visual representations of the different kinds of people and different ethnicities that are flowing through the city. And then we'll look at the people involved in the caves. So of course the patrons, especially from the Tang Dynasty onwards, we start to see patrons and donors insert themselves into the wall murals. And commissioning caves becomes an act of political power, it asserts political power. And there were different kinds of people that commissioned caves, not just rulers, but also merchants, as well as women's groups, for example. And then while we have very few records of the artists and the monks who lived at Dunhuang and created these objects, we still have some material evidence of them. And in Dunhuang's wall murals also have these wonderful scenes of customs and rituals from the past. So here we have a wedding banquet in the Tang Dynasty, and then above something even more quotidian, which is a piece of paper that somebody was practicing calligraphy on. And finally, we'll look at the legacy of Dunhuang. Even though the last caves were created in around the 14th century because the overland Silk Route was then slowly dominated by the maritime Silk Route, Dunhuang was very important on artists and researchers and Buddhist practitioners for many centuries after. So we're going to focus on the 20th century legacy, looking at the people and the artists and the researchers who came to Dunhuang and really studied it and really brought it to life. We'll be including personal stories, videos, and photographs for this section. So now back to Nor.
Thank you, Louise. And thank you, Clement and Nora. And to all of you, I hope you feel inspired by our little presentation today. And I just wish to make a shout out that none of this would be possible without the support, the great support of our patrons and our sponsors. And we sincerely hope that what we presented today, there are themes and ideas that would align or resonate with your organizational goals or your something that touches you personally. And there are different ways where you could support. One way is, of course, with the exhibition, but within the exhibition there are the programs, the conferences, the publications. And if there's a particular experience that you would like to tailor, this is also something that we could walk and do with you, and to produce a partnership package. So yes, and we hope to count on your strong support. And any last words, Clement, before we go on the tour?
No, but just to add on to Noah and Louise, the Dunhuang exhibition is really a rare opportunity because many of the times you will see a lot of Dunhuang exhibition actually going around in China or even outside of China, but most of them are kind of this reproduction grottos or digital kind of experience. But here you have, it's kind of a mixture of everything, including actual historical artifacts, works of art, that is a very rare opportunity for even some of these to leave China, and we are able to do it. And the other experience about why it's important to have some of these grottos is one-for-one life-size grottos. It's also to consider for some of the communities who perhaps traveling to Gansu province, it can be quite difficult as well to move into these grottos. I think some of us have been into these grottos, who have the opportunity to be in the site as well. In fact, it's also very difficult to see the grottos very clearly in this environment because of very strict conservation reasons. Many of them are actually closed already to the public, and even if you manage to get access into it, it's not like it's going to be very brightly lit around the grottos. So this is really an opportunity. It's also to bring the grottos to people who cannot travel to Taiwan. So there is a lot of I think kind of heart share that we can do with this exhibition with our local communities, whether Buddhist or not. Again, to share this very important UNESCO site. And I hope really there is something for everyone to pick on, to take back. And again, what is also very important, as I started earlier, are your feedback and comments. What do you think that is something that we can work on together, that we can build upon what we are presenting to you, that we can come and create a very unique experience for you or for your organizations as well. So on that note, thank you again everyone for your time. This is not the end. I think the tour is happening, and then we will come back here again. We'll all be around to continue our conversation.
Right, and I believe Louis is going to be leading the tour.
Okay, so as we've seen already, Dunhuang was an oasis city on the Silk Road, and so even though we don't have artifacts from Dunhuang to preview for you today, we have a lot of masterpieces from the Silk Road in our museum collection. So now I'd like to invite you on a journey through the Silk Roads with me, through an exploration of our galleries. So we're going to start we'll go through these doors.